Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. As Bradley said, I'm Jasmine Bracket for Tindy. This is Erika Earl, who's an audio engineer and also a hardware engineer. She's also contracting for Supplyframe at the moment and working here in the design lab. And so you might have seen her demos down in the loading dock earlier. There's Paul Beech from Pomeroni. He's head of the Pirates factory in Sheffield. And then also Spencer Owen, who's the creator of the RC 2014, which is a Z80... Z80, sorry, we're in the States now. The Z80 retro computer, which is available on Tindy. So, thanks very much. So, to start this panel is basically about different creators and how they've brought products to market and their journeys along the way. And they've got quite different and varied backgrounds. So, Erika, how did you start?
Why am I joking right now? I started working with hardware electronics in my late teenage years, early 20s, in recording studios. I was fascinated by the creative process and wanted to have a reason to be in there and realized that nobody wanted to fix anything, so if I could, then that would be great. So that's how I got started, was wanting to be closer to recording and capture and music and the gear behind it.
So I messed with home computers in the 80s and learned pretty much nothing. I broke things but couldn't put them back together. And then kind of the making movement and wanting to have a quadcopter before they were cheap and ubiquitous led me to kind of actually learn something. And from then on, it was kind of right place, right time, and the ethic to kind of do stuff.
So my background is more from a network engineer side of things. Never intended to be an electrical engineer, but I accidentally designed a little Z80-based computer, and I thought, well, I could maybe share the PCBs with a couple of friends. Before I knew it, I'm ordering more PCBs from China, which I then need to start selling them to make the money back on them, which is where Tindy comes into it. So I kind of accidentally fell into the fact that now, so 4 years later, my day job is selling retro computer kits. Even though it's not what I'm skilled or qualified in, but it's what I've come to do.
So, all these three Spencer is a one-man band. Paul Pomeroni is a factory in Sheffield, and you've got like 37 employees. And Erika's worked a lot as a contractor, but also in different organizations working with other hardware engineers. So they've got quite different backgrounds for this. As you were developing your careers or businesses, what was the resource or person or group that helped you the most? And I'll start with Paul.
Oh, that's a really hard question. So I think having people you can work with and bounce knowledge off, having that community. I'm trying to remember specific people, but it was just the internet, right? It's just the internet. It's just other people's brains. Yeah. Yeah, making connections online is very, very much it. But finding your local peer group who you can work with, who you get along with, who enable you, who push you, yeah, that helps build things.
Yeah, I think fairly similar for me as well. I mean, so Twitter was absolutely fantastic. Lots of great people out there, as well as podcasts. That thing like the Amp Hour, which I assume everyone here listens to anyway. But yeah, without the Amp Hour, without EEV blog, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today. So it was through things like that really helped me get a product to market, which I wouldn't have been able to do without that. One particular video from the EEV blog is it's entirely based around how to price your product. So just knowing that, it's not just the cost of the bill of materials, it's the cost of the bill of materials plus this plus that. You've got to take into account all of the other factors. So yeah, I would highly recommend checking out the video from Dave Jones. But yeah, lots of other different resources out there as well.
Okay, for me, it's quite different. I think that finding the people who did it the best and making friends with them, stalking them, and learning from them was probably the best resource. And I would always find them from conferences or actually showing up in person to talks or finding them online. But definitely reaching out to the people who were already making the thing that I wanted to make or be a part of, making friends with them, and then figuring it out from there, iterating on their designs, figuring out what was wrong, making it better. So yeah, like go straight to the top, find the people who are already doing something similar and make friends.
And in terms of getting a product from your workbench into the hands of the people that you want to use them, can you think of a time? What's the kind of worst situation that you've been in? What's the worst case that you've been on? So, Spencer.
Yeah, the biggest problem for me was fairly early on. My product ended up being featured on Hackaday. Being front page on Hackaday is absolutely fantastic. What it does mean, though, is that you get far too many orders. So being able to prepare for that, being able to have enough stock in, was the biggest issue for me, because all of a sudden there's loads of people that can see my product on Hackaday, and they go to Tindy to buy it, it's out of stock. So just knowing what parts you've got to place orders 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance, knowing which other parts that you can leave it until a day or two beforehand. But once you've got that worked out, it's not too bad. You know what stock levels you're likely to need. But early on, that was a major issue for me.
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. I'm trying to pick which one. Okay, so the question is, worst mistakes. Okay, the worst mistake I ever made, I think, that stays with me, was not providing a torque spec for a 6-layer board that a contract manufacturer was assembling. And it resulted in the people who were assembling it cracking traces on the board, and then a team of us having to manually fix them over the course of like 3 days to be able to meet the deadline for delivery to the client of the product. So, yeah, the devil is in the details.
And if you're interested in building products, designing products, then Erika has done a talk at Super Conference in a previous year, which is Mistakes That Push You Forward. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, mistakes will move you forward.
Mistakes will move you forward, and you should definitely watch that as well. What do you feel that you've done that's made the most impact? Who wants to answer that first?
Easy answer. It's the thing that got Pimoroni started. It was the Raspberry Pi logo. Everything that's good in my life has spanned from that, and it's freaking everywhere. 30 million boards, 2 in space. So I use that to kind of, other graphic designers, it's like, is your logo in space? I think not.
Yes.
It gives me validation, and it's more confidence when I speak to people, even though it's this one bit of luck I have. And that's that. All of the conversations start from that, and then it gets easier, and you can talk about the stuff you actually care about and love, and that's good.
Okay, I just want to say, like, whenever you can say your shit is in space, you know you have arrived.
Yeah, I'll be honest. There probably isn't one single thing that has actually changed anything for me. It's just a whole combination of lots of things, lots of being in the right place at the right time, talking to the right people. Yeah, I don't think there is just the one thing that happened to work, in all honesty, other than just sheer luck.
I think the thing for me that's had the most impact is getting out of my comfort zone, and also letting go of control of situations, particularly with a team. So 2 parts. The first thing is, when I don't know something, or I'm scared, or I'm afraid of it, like talking to other people and getting out of my comfort zone to be able to figure it out has had the most impact. And that's hard sometimes, because for all of the reasons. The second thing is being open to other people's approaches to solving different problems on a product that I'm working on or that I'm responsible for. So I think the 2 things that have had the most impact for me are get awkward, get uncomfortable, and like ask questions even when you're afraid, and also trust your team that they might actually have a better idea than you do.
I think that's definitely a great thing. Spencer says there's no one particular thing, but as a person who sees his Tindy sales and how he deals with customers through the Tindy system, one of the things is Spencer, he mentioned how to price your product properly, make sure you have good margins, but then also the ability, if anything goes wrong, when you send out a product, if it doesn't arrive or there's a problem with it, being able to deal with that swiftly and make it so that it's not a pain in the ass for him, the customer, or us, is amazing. So, so you've all been in your careers for a while, in different. You're quite in at least a good few years for each of you. I feel like you're very positive people, and I feel like you would do it again. Is there anything that you would do differently, or why are you enjoying it so much at the moment? So, anybody want to speak to that?
I think definitely the last kind of 7 years of Pimoroni is make it a little more time for myself and the personal projects, the passion stuff. I definitely neglected that just because of the pressure of there's always something you should be doing, and that will never really change when you're doing your thing and you're upfront and responsible for it. But always make time for yourself. The alternative is pretty bad for the soul.
Yeah, I think, although obviously, yes, I would do this again, but for a part of the joy of this to me has been how things have just fallen in the right place at the right time, and it's all worked out great. If I'd have gone around this in a sensible way, if I'd have said right from the outset, okay, I want to sell X amount of units, I want to do this, I want to have a business plan and stuff, I really don't think that things would have worked out the way they did. I don't think I could have planned exactly what happened. Therefore, just to go with the flow, see what happens, try something. If this works, yeah, great, go with that. So you can't just recreate that. You can't just say, oh, yeah, I'll plan to just be lucky again with this time, or I'll plan to just bump into this right person at the right time. So, but yeah, give it a chance to do it all again. Absolutely, I would.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't think I would change anything, actually, because it's what's brought me here. I do really appreciate what you said, though, because when I reflect on, on the last 20 years, I'm like, yeah, I really put some of my passion projects to the side to execute other people's ideas, and I don't know that it was really worth it. But ultimately, yeah, I would do it. I would do it all again in a second.
How much time do we have? We've got quite a while. So, what excites you about the electronics industry or the maker movement now, and what are you looking forward to in the immediate future, if not the long term? Is anybody?
Accessibility. It's so rad to me, like how, especially this panel, this conference, and everything that's happening. I think it's really incredible how many resources that we do have available to us that was before, or at least historically in my experience, like precious, or you had to go and find this person or these people. But now you have this entire library, this open source community, events like this where you can have access to materials and resources to build and make whatever it is that you want to, and the community behind you to help you execute those ideas. I think that's really exciting, and I'm most interested in seeing what people in the makers community and in the engineering community at large will do about, data, how we manage it.
Yeah, so for one of the things which has actually made my products possible is things like open source software, like a KiCad or KiCad, whichever one you prefer, and the availability of really cheap PCBs from China. I think things like that have opened up opportunities for me, but things like the cost of FPGAs coming right down, the open tool chains for FPGAs means that as things are going on, it's getting much easier, much simpler, with much lower barriers to entry. So, it's things like that which do really excite me. There's going to be a lot of good stuff coming out because of those, the accessibility and the open stuff there.
So yeah, the exchange of information is great, and the community is starting to do things like play with rocket motors in interesting ways, ion propulsion, in a way that never would have been possible before, like you say. But the kind of flip side to that is we got two ways of kind of saving us, the planet, the race. One is to consume less and save the planet, and the other way is kind of engineering our way out of it, which may or may not work, but I think for that to happen, we've got to be kind of less precious about ourselves as humans in the right way, in the way that pushes progress. Because we've got this thing where when it comes to things that can do great harm but need more research, we get kind of ethically tamped down, while simultaneously we can say that there are various ways that communities and governments really don't care about humans that much, and it should be the other way around. Care about the community, the experience, but allow some more flexibility there when we're trying to go to Mars or whatever, and stop having that dual standard about progress versus how we pretend to care about people. So care about people in the right way, but allow some more risk in pushing humanity forwards and real progress, which probably involves trying to leave the planet sooner rather than later.
I could not agree more with everything you just said. I think it's really important to press on that we consider that when we're designing and making things, what the speculative future is of that design, how it will impact people, and what it means for the earth and everybody else. Anyways, I second that.
So that's quite it's definitely a thing. It's quite a broad kind of looking to the future. But if somebody was starting out they've come up with an idea and they want to make a hardware product, what piece of advice would you give them, or what piece of advice would you have given yourself when you first started? So, anyone?
Fail often, fail hard, fail publicly.
That's what I was going to say. Just go. Don't stop. It's going to suck. You're going to mess up a lot. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be so much more expensive than you think it's going to be, and it's going to take so much more time than you think it's going to be, and you're going to think you're dumb a lot, but you're not. Just keep at it. And the really cool thing about engineering and hardware in particular is that there is always an answer, and you will find it, and someone will help you get there if you can't.
Yeah, if the only alternative to trying it is to not try it, try it. So what have you got to lose? Okay, dignity, money, stuff like that. But no, it is absolutely worthwhile. Give it a try. Yeah.
I think I've noticed that people have clever ideas and they're often inspired things, but also a lot of it's to do with experience and knowing actually practically how to get those things sorted out. So I think that's all the questions that I have today. We're going to do a hardware meetup outside in the alley in the workshop area, which is as you go out that door, it's directly there. So if you have any hardware that you want to share and give away, or also if you just have hardware that you don't want to give away but you want to demo and just talk to other people and Tindy sellers and Tindy buyers, or you just want to show us some cool projects, we'd love to see you there. And I'd like to thank you very much for coming, and I'd like to thank Erika, Paul, and Spencer. And if you have any more questions for them, they'll be out there too. Thank you very much. We weren't doing Q&A, but we have some time if anybody has any questions. No? Okay, good. Sorta. Who are you? We'll give you a minute.
Okay.
Well, maybe 30 seconds.
It's fine. So you mentioned like the torque specs not being specified and them ruining your boards. That's something a lot of people that haven't gone to production wouldn't realize. Are there any other that or DFM type things that make it really hard to go from prototype to, you get what I'm saying, kind of, I guess.
Control procedures are so important. So make videos, make sure you document every single thing about your, you can start it with prototyping, right? You can just start documenting, filming your process and what you're doing, and then review it in your design review, create your control procedures, and just see what you've left out so that anybody who's making it that doesn't give a shit about it won't break it.
Yeah, things will change on you. You won't have tested it in the right conditions. So we test in Sheffield, UK, which is pretty temperate, and then it will get sent out to places that are really hot or really cold, and we totally overlooked that. We just didn't think of it sometimes, often because we're moving too fast. We just have very bare bones procedures. Compared to the talks thing, it's like, that's not even on our radar.
Right. But it has to be if you're doing 6 layers or,
Yeah, but things like that will catch you out. And don't assume your parts will always be the same, because something will change that you know nothing about, and suddenly your latest batch of parts, they'll have changed. And yeah, you just got to be eternally vigilant.
So the WS2812 called you out, didn't it? Was that what you had?
WS2812. What's the name of the kind of not WS2812? No. There's kind of 3 different brands that are not WS2812.
Anyway.
Super solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, documentation. It definitely helps people know how to use your thing, and it makes it so much easier for people to adopt it. So, any other questions? Joseph?
How much marketing did you guys have to do outside of Tindy to get your product get noticed?
So Spencer's the only one that's a Tindy seller. Paul's got a very successful business on his own, and Erika generally works within companies that have a different marketing arm. But if anybody...
Yeah, so the majority of my marketing has been either online through Twitter. I do entirely encourage people to tweet about their RC2014 kits when they get them. I will always retweet them. People like a retweet. That means that other people see them. So for me, that's worked really well as viral marketing. I do also use Google AdWords as well, and I know that if I focus that on a particular country or a particular area of the world, I seem to be getting a lot more orders in from there, so that works really well. Things like being front page on Hackaday doesn't hurt. So, but it's not something that you can just make that happen. But if it does, that is also good for people to find out about your things. I also try to go to as many live events as I can. I go to maker fairs. I go to retro computer shows. I'm out here today, so it all helps to spread the word. So people that may not have heard about my stuff, they might hear about it now. They might go home and look it up on the internet and say, "Oh, actually, yeah, I know someone who wants one of those." So, for me, that's the kind of marketing which I focus on.
I think I'd spin the question around a little bit, because we do the Google AdWords, we don't do much formal marketing, but I think the best thing we ever did was kind of being genuine, being passionate, and choosing the right customers. So I think Pimmeroni's ended up with the right customers. Sometimes, very rarely, we fire customers who are the wrong type. And that was the best decision as a brand, just being genuine, joyful, and having customers who play along with that, who are human, who don't shout at our support staff. Or if they do, they only shout once. We respond nicely, and they suddenly say, "Oh, hang on, you're not going to rip me off. That's great. Okay, we can have a fluffy conversation now." That was kind of the best marketing choice. And yeah, not marketing, it has its downsides, but that's when it feels best, and that's when life feels best as a company.
Aw, I love that you fire customers.
It's happened like twice.
I think it's important. Teach people a lesson. I can't answer this because I've never had to think of marketing.
So Paul says they don't do marketing, but they have a very strong brand. That if you go to their website or you buy any of their products, there's just a sense of joy when you look at their site or you look at their products. They're colourful. They're easy. Like they're straightforward. They're intuitive. They're not necessarily easy to use. Well, they are easy to use, but they're intuitive. More like you can do complex things, but they're inviting and accessible in that way. There's a lot of thought done to the product design to make it that way. Yeah.
Any more questions?
No, but you bring up a good point. Word of mouth, and when you make a good product, it kind of sells itself in some ways, right?
This community polices itself, right? We police ourselves. We kind of vet each other through these events and things, and that's so important. And we don't really talk about it overtly, but it's happening out there, and that's such a good thing, us having an immune system to kind of overtly commercial interests. It's one of the things that keeps us gives us long-term appeal and love, and the reason we keep coming.
Yeah, I think it's not the things that they do and the people that they help and the groups that they help. It comes back, even though, like when they turn up at events or they support different, organizations that are trying to teach people how to use hardware. It's not necessarily going to directly generate revenue, but it helps with your reputation and the fact that you just want to help people. So.
I was wondering how you deal with FCC certifications and things like that, or make sure you are exempt from that or avoid needing to do that.
So we had a pre-panel conference in the bar, and we decided that we'd answer this question through interpretive dance. No, we had serious answers to this as well. Yeah.
But I'm ready for the interpretive dance moves.
Yeah, so...
I feel like it's worth it. It came up. Like, you have to now. Okay.
I hope that answers your question. Yeah. So, okay, the serious answer is as soon as you start shipping that to customers, for any number of reasons, especially now with ROHS3, REACH, you should be having the certifications there, the documentation. That would absolutely kill just about everything people do here. Unfortunately, the enforcement tends to be reactive, not proactive. And given we're all pretty well knowledge here and we all care about things like not knocking out power grids, or kids, yeah. It works out okay, and theoretically, if you were to take a rule of thumb, if you're making below 100 of something, of a low-cost, low-voltage item, don't worry about it too much, and everyone's cool about it. Everyone understands. And if there is a problem, people generally are mortified and will fix it. Once you get over to making 1,000 of a thing, up to 10,000, that's when you should do the full FCC process. It's going to cost, it's going to hurt, but you're making the money to do that, hopefully, by then. And that seems to be a reasonable approach that works. Not that, officially, we, of course, always do the FCC and CE all the time, just like everyone else.
I agree with everything you just said, so I really have nothing more to contribute to than that. You can do pre-scans, you can do the due diligence in advance, which will bring your costs down, and it's something that you want to think about from the prototyping phase. So check your bill of materials. And one easy way to get there for less money is to just make sure that you're using as many off-the-shelf or already pre-certified components that you can in your designs. That will help. That's not a sure thing, but it's a good hack. And then also pre-scan to find the worst cases depending on where you plan to ship. So one of the things that we were talking about at the bar is that go worldwide in your pre-scan testing and find out where it's going to fail against what standard where, not just FCC, but CE, PSE, KCC, depending on where you intend to ship your product. So those are my hacks. Pre-scan means that you can book time at a laboratory, like a national regulated testing laboratory, for half the amount of time for less money, and just say, show me where I'm going to fail against the standards that exist right now for this class of product that I want to get through certification. And they'll just go straight to the crazy parts and say, okay, you're going to fail here, 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 and you can address that in your design. Go back for the full battery of tests. It costs a little bit more, but it's better than paying twice full rate to fail the first time, figure it out, and then pay it again.
But for one of the joys with the products which I sell, they are fairly low volume, but also because I supply them as a kit of parts, the fact that it's the user that assembles it, so things like FCC testing, you're going to get different results from different people because they've got longer legs on the resistors or extra solder, less solder, or whatever. So with my products, they couldn't actually be FCC tested for things like that. So I think I do slip below the radar there. I hope so, anyway.
I want to say one more thing. We're almost out of time. Test on a rainy day.
All right, so thank you guys again. I think we're out of time now. So there's nothing left for us to do apart from sing Paul happy birthday because it's his birthday. So 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Guru. Happy birthday to you. Woo! So I hope to see you all outside in the Tindy meetup now. Make your way that way, please. Thanks for coming.